worry that I wasn't actually going to get a chance and be here at the right time to be able to speak to this bill, because I'm quite interested in the process and what has happened here. And I also see a sort of, what am I looking for, a repeated process or strategy that comes from the government or through the private members who sit on the government side around discussion of issues that affect all of the municipalities in Alberta without a rigorous consultation process that involves them. And I think this is the second or third one where that can be argued. So we certainly had a situation where last year, the 2009's Bill 203, and of course our bills are all renumbered, so there's now a different 203, but from last year, which was around municipal financing, and it went through the House very quickly, and then was proclaimed to the shock of many. And as I have looked at some of the things, and I went to the City of Edmonton disclosure bylaw, and it is very thorough. It goes on for some 10 or 11 or 12 pages with various attachments that go on to it of how and when everything is to be filed, definition of what's meant by a gift, who's meant as family, campaign expenses, honorariums, how much money has to be itemized, anything over $300. I mean, so there was a municipality that in some ways has more thorough campaign finance disclosure rules than we had at the time. There's a bill before us currently, but that we have even to this moment for provincial disclosure. So I'm wondering who was supposed to be the recipient of this being put onto the municipalities. Who were they really trying to get at? Because it was surely painted with a very broad brushstroke. Nonetheless, that's past history. It passed. We now have the Amending Act in front of us. At least the government recognized that something needed to be done and it needed to be addressed. But two of the things that are outstanding, and I want to make sure are clearly on the record. One is that the larger municipalities have been asking for some time to be able to have the legislation passed which give them the choice of enacting tax-free deduction legislation for municipal campaign contributions. And that was not included in this Act. So for trying to solicit donations for any of those people that are trying to run, and let's face it, in the big cities, you're not talking chump change. In Edmonton, the ward sizes currently are dealing with 120 to 140,000 individuals that you're trying to, a candidate's trying to influence to vote their way. That's a lot of money to get things in the mail to them, signs, and all the rest of it, to try and make people aware of what you're doing. And this is without a party apparatus behind them. So to be soliciting donations without any kind of an incentive that is enjoyed by provincial and federal politicians, but is denied to municipal politicians, I question why that was not included in this legislation, particularly because it's something that has been repeatedly requested. The ire of the municipalities in not being consulted was pretty clear, and I probably don't need to go over that again. But and again, I think there's another municipal act that's up around franchise fees, and I wonder how much consultation took place around that one. And I believe that's also a private member's bill. So I think I see the pattern being repeated even when the point has been made pretty firmly. The transparency and disclosure laws, again, in the City of Edmonton, the first one was passed in 1993. And they've continued to operate on that. And I did quote you from it a bit earlier, and I noticed that it was most recently revised in 2001. So they've kept on top of their legislation, and I think if I was them, I'd be a little peeved with this sort of Big Brother knows best attitude. I believe that the audit requirement was addressed in this legislation, so just let me grab it, which was something else that definitely needed to be looked at. Thank you for looking at the candidates' own campaign funds and allowing that to be brought forward, and particularly clarifying the rules around the volunteer and valuing the volunteer's time. Because certainly as happens on this side of the House, but volunteers are really the resource, the biggest resource in a campaign, and if we had to value their time and not go above a certain limit, we would certainly be sunk, or my campaign would certainly be sunk on that. So thank you for addressing and clarifying that they are not campaign funds. As well, thank you for addressing the issues around contributions being viewed over an annual basis rather than on a campaign basis, because it, as I said, when in some of the larger municipalities and cities, Red Deer, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Edmonton, Calgary, Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie, for example, I think candidates are trying to raise sizable amounts of money, and you usually can't do that in one shot at it, so most of them have some sort of annual fundraising campaign. I think you got rid of the problem with the surplus. Yeah, you did, sorry. And the other thing that I wanted to have a look at, sorry, just let me find the right set of notes. There we go.
Yeah, so someone paying attention.
I think those are the issues that I wanted to put on the record right now. But mostly because there seems to be some sort of under the waterline battle going on here between the government and the municipalities, and I'm never quite sure who they're trying to get at, who the government's trying to control. But I wish that there could be a more consistent approach to this. You know, by far, the majority of our population lives in urban centres now. And to continually go about things where either backbencher legislation, private members legislation, or government legislation is brought forward without dealing with those people who are representing the majority of our population who are living in urban centres, I think is short-sighted and very problematic. So I'm glad to see that at least this bill has come forward, which would correct some things, and I'm really hoping, I'm going to stop talking now because I'm really hoping it's going to get passed today. Thank you.